We're back with the right-wing reaction to the celebration of the March on Washington. Let's hear from the experts, shall we?
Grievance mongering does the cause of civil rights no good whatsoever. Period.
All we heard was, here are the problems, stop and frisk. Here are the problems, and Trayvon Martin.
Multiple references made to Trayvon Martin.
It's a near crime what is being done here to take the occasion of this man's great address and what he stood for and basically hijack it for President Barack Obama. If I were President Obama, I'd be a little embarrassed I can't stand on my own.
This is the kind of talk dragging down the Republican Party. The real embarrassment is the GOP minority outreach plan. After their 2012 shellacking, the GOP announced a big rebranding effort. They were going to widen the tent. Earlier this week, the Republican National Committee held its own event commemorating the March on Washington. But yesterday, as the nation celebrated Dr. King's legacy, leading Republicans did not show up, even though they were invited to speak. Clearly, it wasn't a priority. They missed an opportunity to show they were at least trying to reach out. But Bill O'Reilly refuses to believe it. The Huffington Post calls it O'Reilly's major mistake.
Today's event excluded black Republicans and conservatives. All the speakers were Democrats. That was a glaring error and does not indicate a desire for inclusion. Wasn't it a little strange we didn't have one black conservative or one black Republican? I mean, did invitations get lost in the mail or what?
You know, the former president's speaking, I think, was appropriate. I'm
Is
sure
not George W. Bush and a former president?
Well, he issued a statement. I do not know that he wasn't invited. Was he invited? Okay, I have no idea why I invited.
No Republicans and no conservatives.
If it would have been me.
Actually, that's not true. He's wrong. Both former President Bushes were invited to speak. Speaker Boehner and Majority Leader Cantor were invited to speak. Former Governor Jeb Bush and Senator John McCain were also invited. So if they're serious about outreach, I don't know, maybe attending the March on Washington would have helped. Joining me now are Goldie Taylor and Joe Madison. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thanks for having us, Reverend Sharpton.
You know, Bill O'Reilly, Goldie, is complaining Republicans weren't invited, but we know he's wrong. How can a party claiming to reach out to minority voters not show up for commemoration like this? I'm not talking about the March Saturday. I'm talking about the commemoration with 3 presidents of the United States.
You know, and they really were 2 different events. The March on Saturday was about bringing the youth together and advancing the cause by, getting a
Right.
critical mass of people on the mall. And the second day was the actual memorial, where it would have been an opportune time for members of both parties to come together, united, to commemorate this transformative speech. It is a missed moment. And to have some of these talk radio hosts, I saw Herman Cain on Twitter last night complaining that Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina, was not invited to speak. Neither of those things is true. And so this really is a missed moment. If this GOP is going to remain a national party, it will have to broaden its tent. It will have to reach out to African Americans, to Hispanics, to LGBT community in meaningful ways and speak to the issues that are most pressing to them in ways that will resonate. They have failed to do that, and, yesterday's march was just one more missed opportunity.
Yeah, and see, Joe, and Senator Scott was invited to attend, not speak yesterday. And again, this was a commemoration for the nation. 3 presidents, including the sitting president, the leaders of the party invited to come and speak. The 2 former Republican presidents invited to speak. This clearly was something they could have done. Fine. Saturday we wanted to take positions, issues they may not have agreed with. Yesterday was not that. But let me show you something. Eric Cantor, where was he? This is amazing. We learned he chose to meet with oil industry lobbyists in North Dakota instead of speaking at the march. He was invited to speak. The Grand Forks Herald reports that he talked about his farm bill, among other things. And it's got a picture of him at a podium right next to a fellow Republican congressman. So he was speaking with the oil industry lobbyists rather than commemorating one of the greatest days in American history.
Yeah, well, and of course, it was the little people who walked out today at the fast food places that were there. You did a magnificent job pulling everybody together the Saturday before. But, you know, let me say something about this outreach effort that came about because they did an autopsy after the election of President Barack Obama. You know, I think we forget. Autopsies are done on dead people. This is a dead party. Right. You don't do autopsies on living things. And so the reality is, you know, like you sit there and think, you didn't know that the 50th anniversary was going to happen? I changed my schedule. You changed your schedule. Over 200,000 people changed their schedule. They knew this was going to happen. And for people out there in the middle part of the country, understand, every last leader on the Republican Party knew darn well that they were going to get an invitation, because that's how things are done in Washington, D.C.
Let me say this, too, Goldie. Let us not forget there were leading Republicans, Jackie Robinson, one of them, who helped lead the march in '63.
Absolutely.
The first black elected to a U.S. senator in 1968 was a Republican named Ed Brooke. And so while we're talking about this march, we're talking about 50 years of celebrating what black Republicans and white Republicans helped to do 50 years ago. But no, rather than do that, we have Bill O'Reilly taking the moment to attack the unemployed. Listen to this.
Even if jobs become more plentiful, you have to be able to do them. You have to speak proper English, be able to do basic math, and conduct yourself responsibly. America remains a land of opportunity, but only for those who are honest and responsible. If you are irresponsible, lazy, and/or corrupt, this country can be a tough place.
If you are irresponsible, lazy, or corrupt, this country could be a tough place. Unable to speak proper English. I mean, is this somebody we ought to be taking seriously?
You know, unfortunately, too many people do. This kind of wholesale maligning of an entire race and class of people is simply unconscionable. If he were truly about the business of the legacy of Dr. King, then he would know that to address not only personal responsibility, but those very structural issues that keep people, that create the kinds of barriers that people can't survive, cope, and make it on. You know, if we were to take a look, for instance, at the minimum wage and adjust for inflation, it would be at least $10 today. People need meaningful jobs at meaningful wages. That will help break the cycle. Investing in meaningful education, that will help break the cycle.
Even if you don't agree with the ways that some of us may on another party or in civil rights or in labor have, at least propose your method of how to deal with unemployment. Don't mock them. Don't try and scorn them. Joe Madison, it is the kind of language in these times that reminds us of the abrasive language of 50 years ago. Let me play you where two Southern senators told NBC News about minority rights directly after Dr. King's speech in '63.
Now, what about the people that are not here today? Is the Congress going to be so weak that it will run from any group or pass legislation in one particular group wants?
I am opposed to this sort of thing, of trying to acquire additional rights for one group by taking them away from others.
So this kind of mocking kind of thing, we see it updated now by the irresponsible, corrupt. I mean, why can't we talk policy if you have a different view? Or is it that you just really have no position that will help people get jobs?
Oh, they've got a position. Look, what you just saw, America, is the face of Jim Crow. Now, you put James O'Reilly up, you put Limbaugh up, and it's Jim Crow's grandson, James Crow Esquire. As simply as that. We ought to quit playing games with these people. They talk in the abstract. And we know what they're saying. We all know what they're saying. And the reality is, if Tea Party or somebody else had a rally like that you had and we had on Saturday and they had on yesterday, I bet you it wouldn't look like America. And they know that. And so the only thing they can do is try to disrespect us. But the reality is, what you see in those photographs, that's America, and they know it, and they know that if they don't wake up, they're going to be a party out of power very soon.
Go to jail, and Joe Madison, I'm going to leave it right there. Thanks for your time.